right, we are here on a Tuesday morning. Why? Oh, you were homesick with a sick child. Well, you weren't sick. You just had a sick child. You're in that phase.
Sick
right
was
now.
a relative term. She just,
I don't
says
feel
the right
good.
things.
I want time with Daddy.
At 3, she's learned the things she can say where I have to there's legality to it. It's like my tummy hurts and my head hurts and I might have a fever. It's like, well, you don't, but I might, it's just enough to be like,
I feel one coming
I could send you, but I know I'm going to be getting a call. The Addie's sitting in Kathy's office and you need to come pick her up. I just was like, let's just skip that part. And
there is lots of stuff going around.
Oh yeah. So. I did see all the homework lined up at pickup for
preschool.
No, for the older kids.
For all the others. But they quickly learn that, especially when they're not, the first child, they observe it from the older ones and go, okay.
And I think my family, we've just not all been 100%. Maybe we're all fighting something. We have pretty strong immune systems in my house at this point. But she also got the flu shot on Friday, which my wife and I go back and forth whether that's worth it. And most medical people say it is. And so I think she might have had a little bit of after effect on that. You can kind of feel weird for a couple of days. So I think maybe, as a 3-year-old, you're not used to that. So
that's fair.
Probably that.
So we're back.
Get
Get together this morning instead. And Pastor John, he's out. What is he out? Sermon writing, or I know he's had to be out for the day.
Something
offsite working day.
Offsite working.
Yeah, he needs more of those. Yeah, I'm glad he's doing that.
With the way our internet works around here, sometimes I need that. I just need to get away.
Well,
that's more running away.
Verizon was down yesterday.
Yes.
I couldn't contact anyone.
I know. I did not feel bad about myself and any problems here because I just thought I could be working for Verizon right now.
It's crazy.
It is chaos.
It did give me a little flicker of a moment of, okay, this is what happens when it all goes down. If we all become disconnected, it's like, okay, we have to go back to our old means. Where's a dove?
I read
how am I going to communicate?
Series on that. It's quite interesting.
So it was a little glimpse of that.
We are dependent on our tech. And right now we're thankful for it because you are watching and listening because
that is true.
Of our tech.
Yeah. So. Yes, indeed.
So let's go down the road of this message past Sunday.
Yeah, I've had a lot of positive feedback. It sounds like some things really resonated with people, and it was a really hard one to write. And I knew it was coming for weeks, and was thinking about it. And Pastor Dustin, as usual, and John both, and David, actually all 3 pastors really spoke into it in our time together, and landed on those texts. And at first, I was like, these are really kind of different texts, Haggai and Matthew 13 parables. But then I found these unique connections. First of all, they're only like 30 or 40 pages apart in the Bible.
That's so wild.
Which I didn't notice until Sunday morning as I was marking my Bible. I'm like, well,
wait a minute.
There's only a few pages in between these. And Haggai's even tough to find. And I had not spent time in Haggai. I really hadn't. I'd heard of different text quotes from it, but I'd never really spent time in it. But it was one of the most convicting modern day applicable texts I had. And as you maybe saw, I didn't apply it to us. I didn't read ourselves into it. I let people do that themselves like I did. And you just hear it and you're like, whoa, relevance.
To that point, so I'll embarrass Trudy here, but others probably feel the same way. But we're talking afterwards and she's like, so have I been reading the parables wrong my entire life? So,
not necessarily.
To Dr.
I have.
Gibbs,
yeah.
yes.
Right.
Well, and he does a really good job. He spends pages on it, hundreds of pages talking about how we should read the parables. And there's different parables. There's some that are talking, a lot of them are talking about the kingdom of heaven or the reign of God, but not all of them. Some of them are kind of like a proverb, but he does make a good point. They're Christological. That's why Jesus came, is to show people himself. He was the coming of the kingdom of God on earth. And so, yes, we have, in fact, a lot of ways. And actually, Gibbs made a really strong argument for what I shared. And I was comfortable with it because of the other scripture he used to interpret it. But there are people who be like, no, we're the man. We're the merchant. Well, so there are some people out there. But it can't be that.
Well, no. So I think we are meant to see ourselves in the parables.
Yeah.
We just typically put ourselves in the wrong place.
Yep, correct.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Like with the prodigal lost son. We're one of the sons, right? So God's in as the
I need
father.
to forgive more and let the prodigals come home.
Yeah.
No. And with the parable you shared, we're in the parable.
Yeah.
We're the one he's given everything.
Yeah. And that obviously hit me like a ton of bricks because especially if you read Haggai and then you read that, it's that perfect law and gospel combo. And I prepared it that way of, hey, let's be convicted by God calling his people to put his word first, not even him. He is the word, but the word, the things that he does for us that will remind us and we hear it's our benefit. It is to his glory, but it is to our benefit. And so I wanted to be convicted by that and how we put things in this world in the way. And I mean, just hearing, hey, you eat, but you're not fulfilled. You drink, but you're still thirsty. You're clothed, but nobody's warm. Like, that's what we see a lot of, right?
Well, I appreciate the way you kind of set that up too, because you were like, oh, I'm so thankful this isn't talking to us today.
Straight to the Israelites. It was just those people that came back from exile.
You could just feel that whole sense of like, oh yeah, it does hit home. So.
Well, and there's just so many weird similarities and feelings, at least, or acknowledgments, even if they're not direct, of like, these people are coming out of exile. Like, we feel like we're a little bit in exile in America sometimes, or at least we're private.
Heading that way.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like we have to be more private than we used to be. Or sometimes people would say, like, is God really at work in America? Is the church growing? Those types of things. So we can have those same doubts. And that's exactly what they were feeling. They weren't putting God first because they were like, where is he? What's he up to? And they didn't even realize, first of all, that he brought them out of exile, right? He was bringing them back to Jerusalem. And he was giving them all the things they could to rebuild their life. They kind of got it right away. Like, if you read more in Ezra, it talks about what was going on in the time of Haggai, and they brought a ton of stuff to create the altar again. And they put a lot of that initial time into building the foundation of the churches, and kind of looks like it so they could have their festivals, which nobody likes a festival more than us the next 2 weeks. But
that's true.
But it was just about the festivals. It really wasn't about, having temple worship and all those things. And so it was a great, it was all to hold up the mirror for us, them and us. And you have that moment that kind of cuts you to the heart. Well, then I went to the parables, and then there's this amazing truth of we're the treasure, we're the pearl. And that was really like, whoa, okay. So when God's rebuking his people, he's rebuking his treasure. And then out of happenstance, I come across Haggai 2. And it's literally, he's like, that's why I want you to build the temple, so that out of all the nations, my treasures can come and hear the word of God. It's like,
yeah.
Like, I just stumbled on that one. God was like, all right, you're on this treasure thing. Here you go.
Here you go, Andrew.
And yeah, and it helped, affirm what Gibbs was saying about how we are the treasure and we're the pearl, and he's the one that sells it all. He's the one that, I kind of like that. I was trying to wrestle with when Sinead said to me when I was talking about it with her, she's like, so why did he cover us up? And I said, well, he covers us. He covers us in righteousness. He has us now waiting for him to return, but we're covered. We're living now in the kingdom of heaven before, he came beforehand for what's fully going to be when he returns. And so there's that element, it's in there, and maybe it was a stretch, but it all makes a lot of sense. And the biggest thing I hope people took away from it was we do have to have those times where we look in the mirror, and I love the 3 words, consider your ways. Like, quarterly at least, we should consider our ways, but also consider who you are and who God calls you, and that's the treasure and the pearl. So that was pretty cool. And also, I hope you gave to the campaign. No, I'm kidding. No, and that was the interesting thing about this Sunday was nobody's more passionate about the campaign being successful than I, and I know it's a huge part of what we're doing at Messiah right now and being good stewards. And as pastors, as a staff, we worry about it a lot. Making sure we continue to be sustainable in our ministry, and so that was hanging in the balance. But at the end of the day, I wanted to address that biblically, but I also didn't want sermon time to become a sales pitch. And I kind of alluded to that, but I just prayed about that so much. And I'm like, God, how can you, I'm going to ask you to guide me so that I can stir the hearts of your people in the way that you want me to. But at the same time, like, help me preach the gospel here. Right. And so I tried to do that, and hopefully it made sense for what the day was about, and it wasn't too far off, and it wasn't like I just punted my responsibility to call the people to be the church, but at the same time, I didn't misuse that time.
No, I think it was effective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you all that came forward. That was pretty powerful.
I guess you're kind of overseeing a little bit this next Sunday.
Yeah.
Because we got some special things happening too, which is part of our ministry here at Messiah. Well, and Scott, you've been a part of this ministry too. That's coming in to share over the years too. So, but our ministry extends partnering with others in other places of the world or other places of the country. And
so let me tell that history. So we've got Andy Rotuno, a pastor, and so we think when we think missionaries, we're always thinking other countries, and yet Gleanings for the Hungry, which is based out of California in the agricultural region, and it's only one base of many bases of an organization called Youth with a Mission, and they connect with youth, but it's mission work, and it's around the country, and so all of the people there, their full-time workers, are all missionaries who are, their salaries, everything is paid by their home congregations, by sponsors, by people just like we support missionaries. But they live in California, and you don't think of that often. And the way we got connected to them is here's this God story. This is just fantastic. So my wife Catherine and I went out to a youth workers conference out in California, and youth workers conferences, sorry pastors, but youth workers conferences are the most fun of any conference.
Oh no, trust me, I know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So going through the area where the booth area where they're trying to connect you to camps and they're trying to, sell you things and Bible studies and all that stuff is just fun and games. You literally walk up to the registration. They're like, hey, it's a new person. And they get both hands in a bowl of candy and just fling it out in the air. And everybody, hey, scatters and picks up the candy. And so I had so much candy. I see this one table and they've got these peaches and they're dried peaches. And Catherine's like, we need something healthy. And so we walk over there and we grab a dried peach and we get talking to this guy, and he's from Gleanings, and he tells us the story and says, this would be really something. This is what we do. We take all this fruit that would normally get wasted, and we send it all over the world to missionaries to give to people that are hungry, and then give them the gospel message at the same time. And Catherine and I said, that'd be so cool to visit. So fast forward about 3 years later, we finally figure out how to pull this off, getting a group from Nebraska out to California for a week at Gleanings for the Hungry. And when we get out there and I tell this same story I just told you, the leaders are like, oh, you've got to talk to Ron. Ron's going to be back tomorrow. You got to talk to Ron. And so Ron comes back, and Ron was the guy at the table handing us the peaches. Ron had just flown on a flight the week before, talking to somebody about their mission work. And the person said, wow, that seems really great. And this person is in charge of those youth conferences and said, I'm glad you guys came. You should come back. And he goes, we've been coming to your conferences for 3 years now, and we just haven't seen anything out of it. We've essentially gotten no fruit from our work. And so Ron comes back and they're like, Scott, tell Ron the story.
We got one. There's a 3-year time delay, but it worked.
And got one. And what's so amazing from that is that first year, I think I had about 14 or 15 kids that went, because they were like, what? Trying to convince kids, we're going to go to a farm and we're going to work for a week and go all the way to California, but it's not by the beach at all. It was a little tough. But that one trip has now turned into, we've had over 320 different individuals from Messiah that have gone there. I think it's been 3 adult trips and like a dozen or more youth trips, and the adult leaders that have gone along. And we've sent a couple of girls have gone and spent the summer there as summer staff. So just seeing that impact and seeing that connection. So we do have a very deep connection with Gleanings. And a great history with them. It's been a phenomenal ministry to partner with, and I'm excited that they're coming this Sunday and get to share some of what they're doing.
And what's super cool is, even when I was here early on in Messiah, I've been here a while, I'd hear about the Gleanings trip, we do the envelopes and things like that, and supporting the youth, but it was still a little mysterious. Like we knew, like, oh, they're doing this cool service work, and maybe I didn't even hear about the impact that it has overseas and some of the ways they take the gospel out, and that has had a little mystery. Well, I think we're going to tell that story a little bit more this weekend. And the other thing is we've had some adult trips now, like 2 or 3 that have gotten to kind of see behind the curtain too now. And they're the ones that came back here and were like, we've got to get Andy Rotuno here, Pastor Andy here, and we've got to tell the story, because like he's going to share with us some of the impact. And people that are very missional and do a lot of amazing things, we're impressed. So I'm like, it's going to be cool to hear these stories. And then I've already talked to Pastor Andy a little bit, and I'm just excited to let him share more of that. And just this weekend we've been doing a lot of asking of our people, time, talent, treasure, which is great. And certainly whenever we can support Gleanings, we want to. But this one's really going to be more about a celebration of our long-term partner, the missional heart of Messiah, and then just a chance to break bread together. So if that's the three things I was going to tell people, one, we're going to highlight Gleanings and the great relationship we've had and the impact that's had. Two, all the missions of Messiah are going to be highlighted, as many as we can. And then three, we're going to break bread together. So anybody that can bring something for the potluck, doesn't have to be anything crazy. We'll have other things and we're supplementing so everybody will get fed, but we'll be in the gym. But all ages we're trying to gather around. That's why we're calling it the Mission Festival, so that we can all gather like we did in the old days.
Great. What's the time on that again?
10:30 is when food's going to be starting.
Okay,
so you can kind of make it into a brunch, but it'll go through the noon hour. And then Pastor Andy will be in worship with me, kind of doing a Q&A time of reaching more people for Jesus. Great mission, great fit there. And then he's going to give a more detailed presentation from 1 to 2 in the afternoon.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Super.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Will be. All right. Well, thanks for coming in this
Thank you
morning,
both.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye-bye.